must report what they earn, own, and owe, and if they don't, they'll be sanctioned. 2. Their report must include the same kind of information for their wife or husband and children. 3. If they get a gift worth more than $100,000 from anyone who's not family, they must declare it. 4. A summary of the declarations of our Prime Minister and opposition leader must be published where the public can read it. 5. Parliamentarians can now be prosecuted by the Integrity Commission. They can be fined up to $2 million or serve up to 2 years in prison if they don't file their declaration or if they give false information, and $500,000 for not filing on time or ignoring requests for information. Unfortunately, our parliamentarians made changes that prevent the public from knowing when they've broken the law or when they're being investigated. We really need to change that. Visit jampja.org to find out more about the Act and to track if your MP is obeying this law. If they're not, JAMP's MP Tracker will help you write, tweet, or call your MP. Ask them, you submit your declaration yet? The Integrity Commission clear you? Let's help the Parliament stay honest. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
In Jamaica, there needs to be one law for all. Every member of this society, regardless of profession, finances, or the area you live in.
I have some bad news.
The company didn't get the contract?
The money they paid us for it has gotten out.
Are you serious?
I'm afraid so, and I understand that there are going to be corruption charges.
Minister, please come with us, sir.
Breaking news. A senior politician and senior civil servant have been charged for corruption.
Thank God not all of them stay so.
Build integrity. One law for all.
A message from NIA.
Nah, click on your link for my liquor brother pre that slap bro, we no need that. And the next thing them type of song they are listening online, what kind of thing that some big man pose up on them profile and a put chat to a small child. Watch yourself on social media when you a post back sis, no do nothing too wild. What if your little brother see the post ya? What if your bro dead in another crime video ya? What if your little sister fi take a one pic and it a put up everywhere like it's a poster? Before me share the post, the pic, I ask myself what if I nah comment, I nah go click me. Before me ask what if I nah comment, I nah go click me. Before me ask what if, so before you share the post, the link, just ask yourself what if, yeah. When you're there online, make it a new day at the rhyme. Keep up with the time. Broadcasting Commission, I remind you.
We and the youths united against corruption, changing the world and the way we function. The youths united against corruption, changing the world and the way we function.
You remember the youth, them are with future leaders, policy creators, decision makers. As if them are not just the cornerstone, but a crucial part to a better tomorrow.
United against corruption, changing the world and the way we function. The youths united against corruption.
A message from the Integrity Commission.
Washing your hands properly can help keep you and others safe. Remember to wash often, especially before eating or touching your face.
We want a peace for Jamaica. Yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life, while we feel safe at night. Jamaica live
every future bright. Jamaica live, go away. Come together as one and make the violence the world.
Remember that big project the government announced them was going to from when? You ever catch yourself a wonder what happened to it? Stop wonder like an outsider and start move like the country belong to you. You have a right to publicly owned information, and the Access to Information Act gives you that power. I know you have enough questions about how government are run or not run, so let me show you how it works. Say mosquito spraying going on in your community, your children asthmatic and you want to know what chemicals are in it. Or what about that Auditor General report on a public official getting twice his salary with no proper approval? Is your taxes and you want to know if they paid it back? First, do some basic searching to see what is already on government websites. If you don't see what you're looking for, make a formal ATI request by completing the application form on the ATI site or sending a letter or email. And remember, you don't have to say why you need it. It is your right to know. Make sure you send your request to the right agency, and once they confirm receipt, they get 30 calendar days to provide the information, a maximum of 60 if extra time is needed. Yes, I know you want access to everything, but sensitive documents are protected from the public for up to 20 years. For example, documents that would expose a citizen's personal privacy, or those dealing with cabinet discussions, the Governor General's office, or information on the investigative activities of the security forces. Any public officer who tries to destroy or hide any official document can be sanctioned. And if you're having difficulties, the ATI unit will help. So, what if the chemicals in the mosquito spray are toxic? What if the agency did not even try to get back the money they paid out? Call or email your MP. Share the concern, because as your elected representative, they can represent your questions to the government ministers in the House. Remember, it is the job of parliamentarians to monitor and hold the government to account on your behalf. Is not every country give citizens this kind of power, you know? And at 20 years we have this law, and we barely use it. So access information and mind your business, Jamaica. Visit jampja.org today to see what information we access to make it easier for you to hold the government to account. Let's do our job to make Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Motorists, as Minister of Justice, I appeal to you, obey the road code, pay your ticket on time, and only go to court if the ticket is being contested. Close to 80% of matters coming to the parish courts are for traffic breaches. Let's work together to make our roads safe and ease the burden on our courts.
Aspiring gunman, badman, young dance, liquor shotters, the 14, the 15, the 16-year-olds, you still have time to change your future and enjoy your life. No lock, no gun for no guy. And no bother hang with no crowd that is always getting into trouble. Think about your family, your father, your mother, your granny. Some of you good and all have son or daughter. It's not worth it, my youth. Choose freedom.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today.
Most major illnesses that affect Jamaicans are caused by unhealthy lifestyles. Over 50% of Jamaicans are overweight. 1 in 3 Jamaicans has high blood pressure. 1 in 8 Jamaicans has diabetes. 17% of Jamaicans have high cholesterol. A healthy lifestyle can reduce the risk of most of these diseases. Things like regular exercise and adequate rest can play an important role in maintaining good health. The other major consideration is eating healthy. The question is, how do you walk into a restaurant or fast food outlet and identify the healthier menu items? Better For You is an initiative to help Jamaicans to eat healthier. Restaurants and fast food outlets can voluntarily participate by identifying the items on their menu that meet the food-based dietary guidelines for Jamaica. These menu items would be easily identified with the Better For You logo, so customers can quickly identify healthier meal options by looking at the menu or menu board. Once they see the Better For You logo, they can confidently order that menu item, knowing that it's a healthier choice. Better For You will help Jamaicans to make better choices and prompt restaurants to add better options to their menu. Better For You is better for everyone. Good health begins with better choices.
Cook it up and make we steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. A tilapia so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious.
Speeding kills. Obey the speed limit. A message from the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining.
What is the role of a backbencher in government? I'm glad you asked. They're members of parliament who are not appointed to cabinet. So they sit in the back of the legislature and they apply pressure. They examine what government legislates, participate in parliament debates, raise issues and advocate and question chamber when things don't look straight. Backbenchers represent the constituents in parliament. Backbenchers oversee the interests of citizens, you and me. But how can they be agents of government accountability after them no hold a portfolio? And them and a minister? No. So then how can they facilitate government transparency? And the next thing, them and a front bencher. So how them affect me? You see, a lot of work is in committees. So these portfolio-free MPs with less dire responsibilities are more accessible to you and me. So they help with policy, but it helps if we engage them, you see. So they're not just in the back benches, but on the ground, in the trenches. Though in the back of parliament, we're at the front of their cause. So pause. Find your backbencher at jampja.org.
Apply to the Heart NSTA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons. Your government has made it completely free to you.
Yes, my God is holy.
July, your NHT home improvement loan will increase to $3.5 million for qualifying applicants. Your government is caring for you.
Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. If you check out the servings, just do the maths. Not taking too much, finger below the facts. Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. Take note of the sodium, the sugars and the fats. 5% or less in on the right track. You for zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. Vitamins, minerals and vitamin 2, 20% and more that good for you. You for zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You for zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You for zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. Less sugar, less salt intake and less fat. You for zoom in.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Jamaica Moves, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the National Health Fund, and Japan.
10 voices, 5 weeks, 1 mission. Join us for the 2025 season of Jamaica's most popular gospel music show on television. Beginning Sunday, July 6th and continuing every Sunday until our grand finale on Sunday, August 3 inside the Independence Village. Join us as we go in search of Jamaica's next gospel star. Powered by Sagicor, building trust one generation at a time, and our many other partners.
BGLC, the regulatory body. We regulate, you play without worry. We regulate, you play. BGLC, fair play when you play. For the fun of the game, you know when they are. BGLC, keep it fair for the player. You play the game and we are the rules that keep everything fair so the game play better. The Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission. We ensure fairness, integrity and responsible gaming practices. Keep the game fair and fun for everyone. We regulate, you play.
Attention registered voters! Remember to collect your renewed voter ID card before the upcoming general election. If you registered to vote in 2016 or after and did not get your new ID card, it may have been automatically renewed. Simply visit your EOJ constituency office to collect your voter ID card. Contact the Electoral Office of Jamaica at 888-991-VOTE or 922-0425-9 for more information.
So who keeps our taxpayer money in check? Well, the PAC and PAAC help watch over the country's budget. And one might sound like it just have an extra A, but they're way different. Here's how. The PAAC and PAC are two committees that watch the money. The Public Accounts Committee reviews government projects after them close. They do a post-audit check to see what problems arose with the costs and call officials to explain decisions that cause budget mismanagement. And then they recommend corrective action. So the problem will happen from when, not happen again. But what about the money we are spending right now? The PAAC. That's how Public Administration and Appropriations Committee pretty much means your money will protect as it happen, we check. While projects go on, things are accurate. As government spend the nation's budget, PAAC reviews it. They examine proposals and summon officials to find problems before them don't use it. So the PAC and PAAC are two parliamentary committees that watch over the country's wallet to protect the budget and keep it in check. And you can get involved. Just visit jampja.org.
A new story is being written for all Jamaicans. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is on a mission to transform lives. From increasing access to potable water, providing secure homes for the most vulnerable, and helping you own a piece of the rock, we're revitalizing communities and preserving our environment. We're making an impact. See the difference. Feel the difference. Building a better Jamaica for you and me.
You can feel it. Make JC.
We want a piece for Jamaica. Yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life. What we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica live good. Come together as one. I make the violence the world.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legally.
I will do so, Chair. Chair?
I think we were probably blessed if MP Guy gave us that. Go ahead. Hello? Not hearing you. Oh, sorry. Is anybody hearing me?
We're hearing you, but are you hearing us?
Anybody hearing me?
No, it doesn't appear.
Hearing you.
I don't think he's hearing us.
No.
We're getting a lot of spottiness in the recording, in the transmission. All right, let's try this again. Can someone just speak?
They're hearing you, but
You're hearing me, but I'm not hearing you. Can someone just speak so I can know that you may?
I'm speaking, Chair.
You're hearing me.
We are hearing you, Chair. We are hearing you.
He's not hearing us, Mr.
All right, good. I hear both.
Okay.
I start here.
Chair, you're now hearing us?
I'm hearing you now. I'm hearing.
Okay, excellent.
I'm hearing you.
Senator Longmore offered to pray.
Yes, I am. Okay. Are you here? Okay, good. All right. So, member Guy, you want? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Dr. Longmore.
Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us here today as we hopefully come to the conclusions of this major deliberation. Hasten those who are on their way to join us, whether in person or virtually, and guide us in the decisions that we make that may lead to the best outcome of the people we serve. Amen. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Any apologies for absence? Member Gale said he'd be late. He's finishing up another meeting. Anybody else?
No, Chairman.
Anyone else? No? Okay. All right. So my
I think we've lost connection.
Yes, it appears so. Are we hearing each other? Senator Longmore?
Yes.
I'm hearing you, but I'm not hearing the chair.
Chair seems to be having a difficulty.
I called the assistant to the chairman. I'm seeing them now. So they are trying to connect via another source.
Very well.
They are muted, so let me see.
All right, I'm back now, and I'm going to keep my, well, you still have it on. Do you need to take off just in case it's up?
I don't think it's the video issue.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm on now. They have the minutes of June 19th. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4.
I'm not hearing anybody.
Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, Chairman.
Is anybody hearing me?
I don't think we're connected.
Yes, Chairman, yes.
Hearing you, Chair.
Member Golin?
Hearing you, Chair. Are you hearing us?
Okay, all right. So I'm going through the minutes. Page 4. Page
I'm sorry, Chair. Chair, are you hearing me? Seems like communication is an issue.
Yes.
Hello?
Seems so. I'm hearing the Senator Longmore.
You know, anybody on that IT can call to find out what's up. You can.
I don't think he's hearing me.
No, it doesn't appear so.
Am I the only one not hearing the chair? Is the meeting happening?
No, Senator. I just spoke with Miss Ferron. They're still having internet challenges, so they're going to be probably using their phone, the data on their phone.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I'm waiting a little.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I left and rejoined now, but it seems like we're in the same state of affairs.
Yes, Senator Longmore, no change.
No change. All right, cool. Okay, thanks. Yes, Chair.
Okay, good. All right. I'm not sure. We're having some technical issues, so
Yes,
trying to
Chair.
resolve. Hopefully it's resolved now. So can we continue then? If
Just one
that's
second,
correct.
Chair. Senator Golden is trying to get back in. I think she got kicked out, but she just messaged me that she's trying to get back in.
All right, so she can join. We have no restrictions.
Tell her to rejoin the link.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Do we have a quorum still?
Yes, Chairman.
All right, let's go then. And then she'll join after. So I'm on page 4.
No, Chair, I had a correction to the minutes on page 3.
Okay, go ahead.
Where it states regarding my comments towards missing sorry. Page 3, Chairman acknowledge and express appreciation and ask that she capture her thoughts in writing. You actually just made a cursory comment to say that I make notes around my concerns. The in writing seems to suggest that it's something that I need to submit to the committee and so forth. So I would just like that correction, please.
Okay. Is that noted by our recording secretary?
Yes, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we go to 4.
Chairman, are you able to show your video?
Yeah, let me try again. Should be able to, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Then we go to 5.
Chair, on page 5, in relation to clause 39, the last sentence where it refers to the committee raised no objection to the proposed clause. I believe it should be no objection to the amendment to the proposed clause, because it's an amendment to the existing regulation clause. So I think it should just state no objection to the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Noted, recording secretary.
Noted, Chairman.
All right, page 6. Page 7. Page 8. 9. And finally, page 10. Can we ask that the minutes be confirmed? Someone move. Move by.
So moved, Chair.
It's the fire, Dr. Longmore,
Seconded,
by,
Chair.
By Bolden. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And we now move to matters arising, which really is looking at the substantive matters I would imagine that we have reserved for this session. So if there are no objections to moving in that direction, I am going to turn over, who is it, Arcadian, yourself or Mr. Edwards?
Right, so the two issues are related to clause 10
Right.
and clause 24. So I will ask Mr. Edwards to lead in relation to clause 10.
Okay, Mr. Edwards, you're leading on clause 10. So just state the issues, and then I would imagine that others may have an opinion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So we're dealing with clause 10 and also clause 9 because they both relate to the protection of public health policies from commercial and vested interests of the tobacco industry. And this is these provisions seek to implement Article 5.3 of the FCTC. So the issues raised were two. One, the utility of having these clauses, which relate primarily to conflict of interest issues, the usefulness of having them in the primary legislation in the absence of any direct accompanying sanction. That's one. And then two, the rationale for having provision in clause 10, which is the one that deals with the conflict of interest and disclosure of future plans to be engaged with the tobacco industry by persons who may have worked in tobacco control policy. The question was raised as to whether we are creating a monitoring mechanism for public servants after they leave office solely based on concerns about potential conflicts of interest, and whether there in fact is a significant risk or harm in the Jamaican context posed by a policymaker transitioning to the tobacco industry. And there was another question raised about whether there should be a different treatment for a public officer who had left involuntarily as opposed to being voluntarily separated from the service. So these are the issues, conflict of interest issues. And breaking them down, the first one, enforcing statutory obligations without the direct sanction. We admit that the primary practice in our jurisprudence is to have a sanction when you're seeking to regulate conduct. But there are cases, and I believe throughout our deliberation, or the committee's deliberations, it has been noted that conflict of interest provisions is one of those areas where you may not have a direct sanction in the implementing provision. So you may have a provision that relates to conflict of interest, and a breach of that does not necessarily create an offense in the instrument that conflict of interest obligation appears. So we have, for example, conflict of interest provisions throughout our legislation that do not attract sanctions of breach, but not direct sanctions. However, they attract sanctions of different sorts. And I note that the Solicitor General had indicated that even though we don't see necessarily an offense created because one breaches a conflict of interest requirement, there may be consequences under other legislation, such as corruption prevention legislation, disciplinary rules, and other such provisions. So in the case of clauses 9 and 10, the fact that they do not currently have sanctions, and I should say criminal sanctions, does not mean that they are not without effect, because we have provisions under codes of conduct that relate to the lawfulness of conduct by persons to whom those codes are subject. So let me give an example. You have the code of conduct for public officials and the actions of public officials. And under that, you will have an obligation for executive officers or other officials to ensure that they are acting in a lawful manner and in compliance with applicable laws. Once you have a provision such as clause 9 or 10, whether or not it has a sanction, it creates an obligation. So there will be a breach of a statutory obligation. You would be acting unlawfully. So if you did not disclose, if you did not abide by the obligation not to be engaged with industry within a certain, what we may call cooling off period, you would have breached a provision. So you would have breached a law. So we just want to indicate that there is still usefulness of the provision being in law, because it does direct that persons act in a certain manner. It does direct persons toward a certain course of action, and there can be consequences for breach of not abiding by that course of action, even though an offense is not created in the implementing legislation. This, Chair, should I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you like
just
to
do all the points.
All right. So the next point.
And then we, yeah.
All right, sure. So the next point relates to post-employment restrictions in relation to former tobacco policy officers or tobacco industry players. And the issue here is, how do we deal with the movement of persons, public officers who may have been engaged in tobacco control policy, moving into the tobacco industry? This is what is known as a revolving door phenomenon. So, and it has been identified, Chair and committee members, as a tactic of industry. And a number of countries around the world have had situations where you have senior officials of the public service moving from the public service into the tobacco industry, and vice versa, tobacco industry players ending up in regulatory roles. So the purpose of the provision is really to ensure that there's some insulation between a person who would have been involved in the development of policy for tobacco control and their becoming involved in future tobacco industry engagement. So the issue here is that we did not see that the fact that somebody is leaving the public service, left voluntarily or involuntarily, we didn't see that as a significant factor to exclude the application of that future employment restriction on that officer. And furthermore, we wanted to make it clear that the issue of disclosure of their intention to engage with the tobacco industry in future is something that the ministry is prepared to consider, and we listen to the committee, and we know that there are some concerns as to persons who have left the public service being subject to these future disclosure obligations. The primary intent of the provision is to ensure a cooling off period, and therefore the primary intent is really to ensure that there is not jumping from policy development into tobacco industry engagement. So, that's it, Chair. We just wanted to highlight that this whole issue of moving between industry and public health policy is something that has been noted and identified as a tactic of the industry. And even if it is not something that is currently seen as an active, quote unquote, threat, we are going into a phase where major comprehensive change is being proposed. And therefore, the incentive will be much greater once comprehensive provisions for tobacco control are enacted. So we wish to indicate that the provisions are consistent with the measures that have been identified around the world to address the tactics of industry. The only concern.
Hold on, I see two hands up. I just wondered whether we wanted Mr. Edwards to make the final point and then you come in. Or...
Chair, I respectfully want to ask a question here because it has significant potential impact. I understand Mr. Edwards coming from one direction, from tobacco industry into the public service. However, how can we monitor, and in terms of a person's constitutional rights, moving from a policymaker into the tobacco industry, private sector you're going in, how can we institute legislation to prevent them from doing that, or even put in a cooling off period? You know, that's against, and I need to be guided by the SG or the AG's department. Aren't we breaching their constitutional right if we do that?
I would say, well, I would prefer for the SG to respond, but we have not seen it as a breach of constitutional rights to have certain conditions on employment. And the thing is, the important thing.
No, it's not employment, you know, Mr. Edwards. I'm talking about the reverse. Going from, because you mentioned it either way, going from being part of the public sector as a policymaker for tobacco control and then moving into the private sector, working one of the tobacco agencies, for want of a better word. You indicated both scenarios, and I am saying that the latter one that I spoke to just now would be a breach of a person's constitutional right if we do something like that, unchallengeable as far as I would think.
Even if
is there any precedence for it, Mr. Edwards? Does it exist anywhere else?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes,
where?
Yes, it does.
There, I don't know what's wrong.
Sure. We have, for instance, in Uganda, their tobacco control legislation has provision that restricts the future employment. A number of countries have the restriction on the future employment. The question is whether it's an offense. So,
and having regard to our chapter 2, which I suspect is different from elsewhere. Unless we are equally yoked, then I would suggest that we have a look at it and ask the AG's department to look at this or to respond just now, please.
But thank you, Doctor.
Go ahead, Mr. Edwards.
Yes, I thank Dr. Guy for that. But what I'm saying is that when you have a situation where the law has certain conditions, these would be the circumstances that would apply in relation to your employment. Because of course, all employment conditions are consistent with current law. So the issue then would probably be one of transitional arrangements. In other words, for persons who are currently employed in either scenario, either with industry or with the public health sector. The question then would be whether you may be altering their current terms and conditions. So it's a stronger concern in relation to those who would be in place at the time when the law comes into force. For those who may be engaged in the future when there is when these provisions are law, they would have been coming into employment arrangements where they would know that these are the conditions of employment. And conditions of employment are, as we all appreciate, consistent with the broader legal obligation. So there are several restrictions that would apply in relation to employment arrangements, whether there would be restrictions in relation to competencies, qualifications, and of course, the circumstances that you bring to your employment situation. They would have to be consistent with the legal principles that apply in relation to your area of work. So this will become...
Chair, I respectfully would ask again. My concern, Mr. Edwards is explaining what happens from somebody transitioning from private into public sector, as I understand it. And I made reference to chapter 2, it's actually chapter 3 of the Constitution. My concern, and Mr. Edwards opened that particular door, was suggesting that persons who move from public sector into private sector, working in persons who are part of the apparatus for tobacco legislation, to use that term, moving into the private sector, working for a tobacco manufacturer or entity. As far as I see, we cannot have any strictures on those persons because they are no longer part of the public service. So is it that I am misunderstanding what is being said? Because there are two avenues.
Which is why I was asking Mr. Edwards, what is the precedent for that? And have anyone in any of those jurisdictions challenged that position based on constitutional right? And if that research was done, it would be useful. I appreciate. Yeah, go ahead. What you say, Mr. Edwards?
No, I'm saying that I'm not aware. I mean, we've been looking at various cases. I'm not aware of any successful challenge. There have been a lot of challenges on a lot of fronts in relation to tobacco control. I'm not aware of any successful challenge in this regard.
Specifically to this, not anything else. Because I appreciate the point that if you are going into a job and the job has certain provisions, then you have the right to choose not to or to do that job at the beginning. And therefore, if you sign up to it, then you've signed up to the conditions of it. How you enforce it now would be the issue if the person now transitions to the private space. But I guess the law would allow you to do that, the legislation that you're crafting. Isn't that so, Mr. Edwards?
Would allow what, Chair? Would allow you to...
If there's a need for some sort of action against someone who moved from public to private, having signed up that they would need to not be there for 2 years, for example, the quote unquote cooling off that you have mentioned. Would provisions be available to pursue some sort of action against that individual if they did go into the tobacco industry to work?
Well, this is where the code of conduct issues arise, because it would be treated as a breach of contract.
Are you breaking up here now?
Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, I think we broke up here. All right, so if it's the same point that Member Golding and Longmore, and maybe they could come in if you're hearing me.
Chair, yes, and I think you actually articulated my concern. So Member Guy is concerned about whether or not there's a breach of constitutional rights. I want to understand how you would enforce it. And Mr. Edwards' beginning answer, talking about the code of conduct, is disciplinary action that once I leave the public service, I don't know that you have any jurisdiction over me anymore. I don't see how you can call me in for disciplinary action, because if I just refuse to come, what force do you have over me? I have left your employment. I am a private person doing what I wish to do. So I understand including provisions like this sort of to make a legislative statement, but if you can't discipline me, what's the point?
Yes, thank you for that, Senator Gold. If I may, Chair, respond.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so the question then would be not, it would not be acted upon in relation to your position with reference to your position in the public service, because as we would all understand, the person is no longer subject to public service rules. But if in fact you have a provision that says that having been in the public service, you take a course of action, the response in law or in codes of conduct would not be in relation to you as a public officer, but it would be, for example, if you take up new employment in the industry and the question is raised as to matters of integrity and so on, then you would be seen to be one who, notwithstanding the obligation to act in a certain manner, you have not acted in that manner. So it will really be for future employers or persons who, for instance, may have wanted to engage you in other ways, whether to put you on a board or a committee, to ask, how come you were doing this a year ago, you're now doing this, but doesn't the law make provision for a gap period? How come you have not, but
Mr.
that?
Edwards, if I could.
So it's not in the public, not on type. So I'm not speaking as if you're going to be subject to public service rules as a former public servant.
No, that's not where I was going though. It's not just about public service rules. It's about what penalty can you apply to me? And we have already discussed these clauses and said we're not looking at criminal sanctions for the breach of these clauses. But the malady that we're addressing is the question of the tobacco industry engaging public servants who previously dealt with tobacco policy. If the tobacco industry wishes to do so, and I wish to engage with the tobacco industry after leaving the public service, how do you stop that? Because to say that, well, I won't be able to sit on a public board, but maybe I don't want to. That's not a penalty. That only arises if it's something I'm seeking to do, but maybe all I want to do is engage with the tobacco industry. I don't see how you stop that with this provision.
Yes.
It doesn't fix what we're trying to fix, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Longmore, if you're adding some additional insights on this.
Yes, I perhaps I can get guidance from the AG before she comes in, when she comes in. Stepping back and trying to find some solution and looking at it in a sense of some similar legislations that we may reference. In security industries, in financial industries, let's say the military, persons who serve are restricted with the information that they can share. You have threats of data theft, sabotage, where former employees, upon leaving that particular agency, are restricted in their interactions based on the knowledge and awareness that they have. So I think there is guidance in other pieces of legislation that we may reference here, maybe not as stringent, but I'm wondering if there is any that we can call on to provide some guidance as to how we approach this piece of issue with the tobacco legislation. The primary issue being that persons who would have been privy to information can use that later on in an agency where it can pose a risk to the health of individuals. So I'm just, is there any other parallel piece of legislation that we can look at in our jurisdiction to relate to this circumstance?
I was asking Mr. Edwards for...
It's not legislation. It's not legislation primarily, but it's going to be a thing. I go back to the issue of code of conduct and code of ethics, because those are what? Just as
yes,
Senator
Mr. Ellis, just what I'm trying to ascertain. Let's say somebody who is a former high-ranking officer in the police force or in the JDF, and they're privy to certain security information, and they somehow have left that agency, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. Is there some legislation apart from code of conduct? And yes, I hear you with code of conduct, but is there any specific legislation that restricts their interaction with, let's say, a foreign agency or private security industry or something like that? State secret is kept secret.
Well, you'll be getting into, as you said, the area of secrets, disclosure, unlawful disclosure, official secrets act, for example. But you see, that is dependent on the issue of proving that you actually disclose information. You may not be able to show evidence that information garnered in your public capacity was actually transferred. So this provision is a very basic one that just says that there should be a cooling off, because you're going to get into issues of difficulty of proving the transfer of state secrets, so to speak. If all you have to show is that the person moved from...
I don't have a problem in principle with the cooling off concept, because it's used in many jurisdictions. It's used in business. If you sell a hardware shop, part of the contract is that you can't go across the road and open one after you've sold. Okay, you would carry all your customers across the road, so you really sell somebody a shell. Those are standard business processes and procedures involving. So what I'm saying is, I don't have a problem with the concept. What I'm asking is that, and I think that it probably is a good thing. What I'm asking is, what would be, how do you kind of prevent this from happening? Or is it just a name and shame scenario? And is there value in the name and shame? Publish the name in the paper. I'm getting very practical now and citing real life examples. I mean, the Student Loan Bureau does it all the time to try and attract people for paying their bill, their thing. That's what I like to see, but it happens. That's why I was asking about other jurisdictions. How do they enforce this to make it worthwhile? But I don't think we need to argue too much. I don't necessarily agree with Member Guy that it's a breach of a person's constitutional right. I think you know what you sign up for, and if you don't want to sign up for it, then you go look for another job somewhere else. So you have the choice. You always will have that option from the start. But the question is, how do you enforce or make it sufficiently a deterrent for someone to do what you're trying to prevent them to do? And that's why I wanted to kind of deep there. Is that you have something to comment on that, Minister Gale? Member Gale? You want to add to that aspect of it?
Yes, Chairman. My apologies for being late. I was just dealing with another matter in another meeting. I suspect that we're still battering ourselves around clause 10. Is it?
Well, this meeting is primarily for that purpose, 9 and 10.
So I would have raised the concern in the last meeting about how you treat with those who would have involuntarily separated themselves to be held to this strict ordinance. To which you have no, because you are sending them out of your organization, either by way of termination for cause or redundancy. But then what I'm hearing now is this cooling off period. And a cooling off period suggests that, in my mind, it's some voluntary action. So I must ease down for the defined period. Now, I have a challenge with you putting it in law because you really have to enforce it. And what would be that extent of punishment desirable to do so? I can understand, Chair, if upon the intent for to be employed, if it's in your rules or code of conduct, that persons are aware, that's a different situation. But again, I ask the question, if there's a failure on the part of those individuals, how are you going to enforce it? Because if you leave and you conduct yourself in those manner, you have an employer, I'm no longer employed with you, you know. What right you have to impose any disciplinary sanction on me? I'm no longer employed.
And Chair, if I may just add here, Senator Gale, I asked the question before regarding the precedents that might be set in parallel industries that have this issue. Where who are the enforcing authorities? So like in security or in the financial industries, where ex-employees may be privy to information and going out there. That is what I would like some guidance on, because I think there's precedent set in parallel pieces of legislation for said enforcement.
Well,
I'm
I'm not going to ask for that because I'm not sold on it. So I'm not going to search for it. Those who want to ensure that we are sold on it must provide that kind of evidence. But I'm not going to look for it.
All right, Senator Gale, I hear you. Just bear in mind that involuntary separation may be a greater motivation or incentive to shift to helping the opposite side. So I wouldn't rule out that as an incentive. In other words, someone who leaves the system because for whatever reason they are aggrieved may be more incentivized.
The involuntary separation, you know. The involuntary separation is where the employer would terminate either for cause or redundancy. So it's not me getting up and say, I want to leave because I want to go over to the authority.
That's the point. That's the point. It may be a moot point, but that's the point I'm making, that if you terminate someone and they feel as if they have been done in, they may be even more incentivized to go and help, in this case, the entity that you are trying to control as a sort of revenge thing. So, but let's not get there. I think the point I'm trying to get us to focus on the core at hand here, which is what Mr. Edwards has to help us with. Everybody seems to raise the issue of enforcement. Is there some precedent for this? Where is that? And how would we capture that in what we're doing?
Chair.
Yes.
We had suggested earlier on to ask the AGs for an opinion, and we have not reached there yet. Could I ask that we do?
I think we know the AG's opinion, but I'll ask her again.
I don't.
We're always happy to hear from her. Is she online, by the way?
SG.
Yes, good morning. Yes. And Mrs. Celia Brown is also with me.
SG, you're in a nice place, dear boy. It's very comfortable.
Thank you.
All right, you want to give us your opinion again for member guys' benefit?
I'm not really weighed in on this because a lot of this is policy. But perhaps just to address the issue raised by Senator Longmore, I am not aware of a precedent in Jamaica for something like this. I think what she was speaking about was when we have these secrecy provisions, and what we have in usually the obligations to secrecy is that you don't divulge information that you garnered. So like it's in the BOJA, I think, Bank of Jamaica Act, and maybe the BSA, Banking Services Act, where certain officials, even if when they leave the employment, they can't divulge information, but there is no restriction on employment, as in you can move and work elsewhere. It's just that you're not to disclose the information that you receive. While in that as it relates to, I know we have that kind of restriction as it relates to private contracts, but not, we don't put it in our legislation. I don't know of any example here where it's put in legislation, and I don't know of those kind of restrictions being governed even in our public sector by enforcement of the rules in public sector.
And may I just ask, Chair, who would be the enforcing agency in those policies?
It's usually a criminal offense. It's actually a criminal offense to breach the secrecy provision.
And so it would be the public, it would be the government.
Yes. So a prosecution would be led by whether the police or the office of the DPP.
And who would be the monitoring agency, or would have been the monitoring agency in such circumstances? Is it the past employer?
They don't have a regulator.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It would have had to come to someone that some secrets were breached. And usually that can come to light in any variety of ways, which would lead to a police investigation and then charges being led, because that's criminal. But usually we only restrict that as it relates to obligation of secrecy provisions, which we don't have here.
Right. So basically what I was thinking is a tiered down version of whatever obtains there. But thank you for the clarity. Thank you.
So just to be clear, because the voice is a little hollow, I think it's probably the system. You're saying that the provision, the precedent would be to restrict divulging information that you may be privy to, having worked within the state system, now working for a tobacco entity, and that there are related legal provisions for any evidence to suggest that you have done so, where you could be pursued as a criminal matter. Is that did I hear that correctly?
Yes, and usually the penalty is $1 million or 1 year. We've usually tried to standardize it across legislation.
So maybe what we need to do then is to recraft that clause to reflect that. Would that be acceptable?
But there will be no restriction on employment then, Chairman. That's my point.
Yeah, no, I get the point.
No, I'm asking.
That's what I was asking.
No, there would be no.
No. What SG
that
saying?
That would be double jeopardy.
Huh?
That would be double jeopardy. If you have a restriction of employment plus the consequential non-disclosure.
No. What SG is saying is that there would be a restriction on employment. She doesn't have a precedent there, but she knows of the commitment not to divulge. And if there's evidence that you have, then you can be pursued otherwise.
Right.
So that becomes more enforceable. I mean, I don't know how you get that evidence that you have, but I guess there may be ways. I don't know what Mr. Edwards and Kadian thinks of that, if that is more acceptable. Mr. Edwards?
Well, Chair, I appreciate what the SG said, which is consistent with what I was saying earlier. The challenge is evidence, because that is now getting into proof that information that was confidential or obtained in your employment has been disclosed unlawfully. So that is of course, a very useful approach, but it is in terms of proof, it could be very challenging.
But that is a challenge in such circumstances across the board. It still doesn't inhibit us from providing for the breach.
No, it doesn't, but we already have laws for that. I mean, meaning that we can always put it in the Tobacco Control Act that you should not disclose information obtained as a public officer. But we are all persons who have served in the public already have those disclosure restrictions in law. It's already an offense to disclose information that you have obtained in your role as a public officer. That's already can be criminally sanctioned. So we can always put in new provisions in this legislation, but it's not without sanction already.
Anybody else wants to come in?
My recommendation,
Go
I
ahead.
would suggest, following the intervention from the Solicitor General, is to look at the provisions in terms of the obligation for secrecy provisions that she mentioned, and see whether it could be adopted for clause 10.
How long would you need to look at it?
Mr. Edwards,
Well, Chair,
we could look,
what-
do I look at it with another week?
Go ahead.
Yes, Chair. Yes, what SG has referred to is actually consistent with what we have in some of the tobacco control legislation elsewhere, where you have both the restriction on employment as well as the restriction in relation to future employment and the restriction on disclosure of information. As I can actually bring up something, I don't know if I can share it, but I could, as we discuss, as the meeting proceeds, I can just locate a specific provision like that and share it with the committee chair. I think it's either Guyana or Uganda, a similar provision.
You're looking for that, no?
Oh, no, sure. I would look for it. I was going to just search for it while the discussion continues.
So what would be the recommendation from the committee?
Yeah, no, what's the recommendation? So, yeah. You see, the absence of the enforcement argument is what is of concern to me, why I am hesitant to go the route as proposed by Mr. Edwards, which is why I was asking for the precedent that would have been established to demonstrate that this is in fact possible and has been done. You say it happens in other jurisdictions, and you named one country. How adaptable is that to Jamaica in terms of those that jurisdiction is what I would ask. Outside of being able to do that, unless we want to break new ground and have some special provisions, which could be argued, we may have to go with looking at what the SG is recommending. Anybody else wants to comment on this before we kind of make a decision? We need to make a decision.
I don't suggest you would be no new ground to be novel in this. I'm suggesting that if we are to look at what the SG is recommending, that might be safer grounds.
No. There's no safe ground with tobacco, so we're not in that.
Well, the intention really, and I can understand, Chair, the intention really is to protect the organization, to protect the authority. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, whatever we are pursuing must be enforceable.
Yeah, that's it. That's a concern I have. That's a concern, the enforceability.
It makes sense to put a policy in place or a law in place that you can't enforce.
All right, so let's look at how we reword that then, and they undo what is recommended by the SG. Is that acceptable to everyone? If I see no objection, so
Yes.
let's do that. And then let's move on to the next next area. Who's taking that? Is it yours?
I am.
Or you are? Okay, go on.
So we now turn to clause 24 of the bill, which is the clause on the ban on advertising, promotion, and sponsorship. There's a comment? It's not really.
Yes, Miss Birch, there is a comment.
Oh, okay. I see two comments actually. There's one in relation to 24. Clause 24. Discuss clause 24. Do we have an outstanding matter there?
That's what we're going to talk about.
That's what we're doing now, yeah, okay. And then there's one on PAHO and whether or not the precedent to see what the research says on these matters in terms of the clause we just discussed. And we'll be happy to have that weigh in on the conversation. So please go ahead and do that. In the meantime, while we try to see what is being proposed and how that could be framed. All right, okay, go ahead.
So the ministry would have circulated to the committee clerk yesterday or response regarding the concerns on the tobacco on section 24. We would have also shared the letter we would have submitted to the Attorney General's chambers in November 2023. And we also shared a paper received from WHO PAHO on the constitutional concerns. I would ask whether members had a chance to review.
No, I don't. I am not aware of that letter.
Yesterday.
Sorry, excuse me, when were those things shared? Because I haven't seen them.
The committee clerk circulated them yesterday evening.
Oh. Aware.
Let me try to resend them then.
I received other documents, but I did not see those.
Yes.
There probably was an issue on their end then.
Yes, I didn't get those either.
So I'm looking at mail from Alicia, Malcolm, and those are not documents that were attached. Those are the agenda, the minutes, and the draft report.
Correct.
Likewise.
Okay, Chairman, I'm checking.
We did not, there were some issues in terms of the mails being returned. So perhaps that was also the issue for the committee members, why they haven't received.
No, but we received other correspondence. I don't understand why the mails would have been returned for these.
Okay. If you haven't seen it, is it possible to take us through it, or it's too much?
No, I can take.
All right, can we?
But I would want, certainly, are you able to perhaps drop it in the chat? And then that's your computer, and then persons could then, even though they haven't seen it before, could perhaps follow. You have it downloaded?
All right, let me download it and try to do it right now, Miss Birch.
But we don't know if it will go through. What we will. She can share it. Okay, so Miss Malcolm, would you try to share them in the chat?
Miss Birch, I'm trying to download them now. So 1 minute, please.
Okay. I can do it. In the interest of time, I could place them in the chat. I just need to be let into the meeting.
Ms. Birch, there is no restrictions regarding joining, so I'm not sure why you're not able to join. The letter is uploading right now in the chat. Are you able to see the letter on your hand?
You could, I think she's trying to upload it.
Yeah.
No, I think she was trying. So
Miss Birch, are you seeing the letter on your side?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Is everyone seeing it?
Yes.
All right, so maybe you want to just.
Well, I need the other document, the response document.
Yes, I'm trying to upload all of them right now.
Okay.
Where are we supposed to be seeing it? On our screens? I'm not seeing anything.
In the chat.
In the chat. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Thank
just
you.
double click on the
Mhm.
icon and you'll see it.
All right. Thank you. To get back to the page.
Should you? Okay, it's
Well,
there.
I wanted them to have the response document that I
Isn't that
could
it?
follow.
Isn't that it there now?
No, that's the PowerPoint letter.
Which, you have one more?
Yes. Okay, that's it now. Okay, Minister, so through you, I could, the response is now there, so if
Okay.
the persons have it, I
All
can.
right, so
now
can
go.
you just download and then let's see if we can go through, led by Ms. Birch. If we think it's too heavy, then we may have to spend some time looking at it, but let's try and see where it takes us. Ms. Birch, go ahead.
Okay, so the document that I'm taking us through is the response, the document titled Response to Concerns regarding the proposed Section 24 of the Tobacco Control Bill, ban on advertising, promotion, and sponsorship. We started out by outlining that the provisions under Section 24 is seeking to prohibit both direct and indirect actions which may constitute advertising and promotion of tobacco products or relevant products, including sponsorship by players in the tobacco industry. We indicated the concerns raised during the deliberations of the committee expressed by the Solicitor General regarding meeting the minimal impairment test criteria, which must be demonstrated to the court in order for any limitation of constitutional rights to be regarded as demonstrable, justified in a free and democratic society. We acknowledge that the provisions under Section 24 may be considered a limitation on the right of the tobacco industry to the freedom of commercial expression. However, we are of the view that the limitation is necessary, proportionate, and justified to achieve the objective of promoting and safeguarding the health of the population, especially the youth, from the addictive and harmful nature of tobacco products, which is a leading contributor to non-communicable diseases and preventable deaths in Jamaica. We went on to outline why a comprehensive ban on tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship is proposed in the bill. the comprehensive ban is considered an effective control tool because it closes all loopholes that tobacco companies utilize to exploit and influence consumer behavior, especially among youth and vulnerable populations. The comprehensive ban, as set out in Section 24, we consider to be necessary, and it's a tried and tested legislative response to tobacco companies that pour billions of dollars into advertising each year. The evidence shows that strategies are geared at recruiting new users and keeping current smokers. And so the tobacco industry aggressively targets youth and women, particularly in lower income countries, as it is known that once teenagers get addicted to tobacco products, then these companies are guaranteed consumers for several decades, as they will eventually become lifetime users. We outlined that under the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, the TAPS ban should cover at least the following: direct advertising on television, radio, print, billboards, point of sale; indirect promotion, which include brand stretching, brand sharing, promotional discounts, free samples, sponsorship, and product placement; point of sale displays that seek to normalize tobacco products and trigger impulse purchases; sponsorship and financial contributions; and corporate social responsibility activities designed to delay tobacco control measures. The guidelines pertaining to Article 13 of the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control speaks to that effective ban on tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship should be comprehensive. And it is deemed effective only if it is broad in scope. It is known that where only certain forms of advertising are prohibited, the tobacco industry inevitably shifts its expenditure to other advertising, promotion, and sponsorship strategies, using creative and indirect ways to promote tobacco products and tobacco use, especially among young people. And therefore, the effect of partial advertising ban or restrictions on tobacco consumption is limited. So we outlined
Chair,
that
please,
partial
just a
ban.
minute. Chair, which document are you reading from, Ms. Birch?
I'm reading from the document titled Response to Concerns Regarding the Proposed Section 24 of the Tobacco Control Bill. Is it the one in the
Response
chat?
is that?
It's the ministry's response.
Do we have something from the AGs? Because I thought that was what we were supposed to be looking at.
Yeah,
So
the first one was from the AG.
No, the first one was a letter to the AG.
So the Attorney General's chambers, they have expressed their concerns as documented in the minutes of the meeting.
So the question is now, in the minutes of the meeting, so why are we deliberating this then? Should we not just look at those minutes of the meeting to determine our way forward in terms of?
We have.
So anyway.
Wait.
No,
but anyway, what? Tell me, what's the concern?
No, I'm saying, Chairman, if we this letter, the first one that was read from the ministry was from 2023. We have seen where there is a response from the ministry in Richard. We have seen PAHO's response. Our concern, as far as I am aware, reaching to Section 24 about a ban was whether there is a justification for a ban, because based on the minutes of the meeting, my read of it as itemized in the blue section is that whether we were looking at a complete ban or a partial ban, as was the case in Canada, and how does that fit into the framework. Now, I don't see here where we are guided by any of this that is being read just now. Because at the end of the day, the guide ought to come from the advisors to the government, and in this case, who's advising the committee, which is the SG, on behalf of the AG's department.
Not, well, of course, and guide is a very appropriate word. It's not the decision, it's the guide. And I think
Certainly.
the purpose of the committee is to have a dialogue, and the Ministry of Health, I believe, can give its opinion, as all of us are entitled
Isn't it,
to do
Chair?
at this level. So that's what is happening, and I think it's
Okay.
appropriate. I don't see any rule that prevents that. But I understand the point you're making.
Okay.
But there can be deviations from always accepting the guidance or advice from anyone actually, or entity. So why don't maybe we should just have her just finish, and then we can chime in, and you can state your position. I'm sure. You want to go ahead and quickly?
Dr. Long.
No, Dr. Longmore, what's your position?
Well, Chair, you have indicated that she continues, because I know that we have fulsomely discussed this. And if I upon review of the minutes and such, I think the substantive issue is around the Oakes test, et cetera, which is, I think, the malady that we're seeking to solve. But I will allow the process. I'm just mindful of the time that we have left.
Yes, I agree. And that the unfortunate situation is that everybody didn't get the document, which is what now will make it a little more long-winded. I mean, how much time will you need to address the salient points?
But only given that they would have just received it, do you want us to have them review, especially the Solicitor General, Attorney General's chambers?
That will actually bring the meeting to a close now.
Chair, if I may
That
just
will be the
add
last.
a comment.
Yeah.
If I may just add a
Right.
comment, in seeking to try and come to some resolution, upon review of the Oakes test and what we're trying to resolve, I think that present and substantial objective of the law, we have satisfied. Rational connection, we have satisfied, especially with the provision of evidence for local research, and minimally impairing, and also now the aspect of proportionality. I would like for us to consider in the deliberations, perhaps for the next meeting, the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom with respect to healthy and productive environments. So I am now basically proposing that we look at legislation, not just specific to the health concerns, but also health with respect to the environment in which individuals and citizens exist. And I think based on that charter of the rights of individuals to healthy and productive environment, free from threat of injury or damage, I think we would have satisfied that proportionality requirement. And I think that we would be then in keeping with what we would need to do to protect the public from that level of advertising by the tobacco industry, especially our youth.
I do recall that we had asked for some information from the NCDA, and I know they're online, and they should have that information. I'm not having to adjust the approach, because again, I was hoping that everyone would have benefited from the document that would have been circulated. So I wondered whether or not we could shift and allow the NCDA to quickly present the information that was asked for, and then maybe take it from there. Can that maybe?
Sure, I merely brought up that point, so that for the deliberations, that for the next meeting, to expedite the process, because I think that helps to satisfy what we're trying to correct here. Thank you.
Yeah, but that deep assumption is the next meeting, which I was hoping there wouldn't be one, but okay.
It is what it is.
It seems that we have been forced into it based on the document not being examined thoroughly. NCD, are you online?
Good morning. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, all. My name is Uki Atkinson from NCDA. I'm sorry I'm unable to share my camera, but the bandwidth is low here today. And so in the interest of preserving the internet, I will
circulate that information.
Yes, Minister, it was from us.
In the document.
Quickly go through. Okay.
Quick,
All right, so I'll just
quickly take
very
us.
briefly, okay, very briefly, I'll talk about what we're seeing in terms of the prevalence of use based on the 2023 survey that we conducted. And this is a survey that is nationally representative, both at the parish level and at the national level. And it is also a survey which we repeated. We did it in 2016, so we're able to compare what things look like between the two periods. And basically what we are seeing is when we measure substance use, and in this case tobacco, we look at lifetime use. Have you used in your entire life? Have you used in the past year, currently? And we also measure daily use. And what we're seeing between 2016 to 2023 is approximately a 3 to 4% increase in the measures across the various, lifetime, past year, and current. So currently, approximately 1 in 10 of the population between 12 to 65 reported that they use tobacco on a daily basis, that they smoke cigarettes on a daily basis, compared to approximately 7% who smoke overall in the past month, 17% in the past year, and overall lifetime, have you ever smoked in your lifetime? We're seeing a 32% lifetime prevalence. But when you look in the age group categories, across those measures, we're also seeing quite significant increases, particularly among the 25 to 44 age group, where some of the measures have actually doubled, particularly among males. So this is not atypical. In all countries, there's significantly higher level of use among males compared to females. But when you look at, say, daily use in 2016 among the 25 to 34-year-olds, males, it was 12.2%, and this has gone up. In 2023, it was 27.8%. So the figures are basically going in the wrong direction. This is not what we would want to see. We also looked at parish comparisons, where the three top parishes in terms of prevalence are St. Andrew, Trelawney, and St. Anne. And these have also shown an increase since 2016, the same survey that was conducted. We also do the Global Youth Tobacco Survey, which was last done in 2017. We're about to go back into the field this year in collaboration with PAHO to do another national survey. And in 2017, when we did that survey, what we found was that approximately 11% of the students reported using tobacco products. 15% had reported that they experimented with vaping. But in the absence of doing a national survey, what we did recently was a rapid situation assessment in six institutions, 3 parishes in the West last year, because this was like a needs assessment for an anti-vaping campaign. Now, as we all know, vaping is something that is increasing quite significantly in popularity among our youth. And when we did that rapid assessment, the results were quite concerning, because what we found was that, so this is primary and secondary school students. Just to note that it's not only secondary, we went to primary schools as well. And overall, we did about 350 students. And, 3 in 10 of the high school students report that they vaped. 50% of them had family and friends who vaped. The access and availability was very, it was ease of access. And what we also found, which is typical across the world, is that there is low risk perception of the danger of vaping. So it's all about the flavors and the hype and so on. They do not understand the dangers in terms of the health implications of vaping. These were the results from the rapid assessment. As I said, we're about to go back into the field where we would be able to see what kind of, what direction we're taking in terms of the prevalence of tobacco use among our 13 to 15-year-olds nationally. What we can say is that Jamaica is not unique in the Caribbean. In a recent meeting of drug observatories in the Caribbean, all of the representatives from the 13 Caribbean countries reported major concerns about the increase of vaping, the ease of access, the low risk perception. So we are in a context, with social media and all of those other influences where our young people are at risk. I conducted some of those focus groups with youth in primary schools, and we also interviewed principals and guidance counselors. And they were saying, whereas you used to have to be concerned about children going around the back of the school to drink or to smoke ganja, what they're concerned about now is the vaping, because, it is something that has taken off exponentially among our youth. And that's basically it in a nutshell.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes, Minister.
I hear the data. I just wondered whether you could comment on whether the study allowed any assessment on the relationship between advertising and promotion and the take-up level. So the reach and the impact. Is there a comment on that, since that is here?
Right. So in the National Drug Prevalence Survey, we did not look at that. That is in the Global Youth Tobacco Survey, and I would have to look back specifically to find that data, which I do not have on hand right now. But in terms of owning products, yes, go ahead, please, Kadia. Go ahead.
So we did highlight it in our response on page 5. The last Global Youth Tobacco Survey, more than 3 in 10 students noticed tobacco advertisement or promotion when visiting point of sales. 5 in 10, 49.7% students noticed anti-tobacco messages in the media. Yeah, so we had pulled out those to show in terms of the advertising aspects.
Thank you. And I know there's also a measure on youth owning things that were given to them in free in advertising or promotion activities. So we also have that data, and it would be good to be able to see the comparison this year with 2017, because we expect that they're going to increase quite a bit. Thank you.
The other question I wanted to ask quickly is again, I have to go back to where this is established jurisdictionally. The advertising, the restrictions on advertising, which I think is almost universal right now, the extent of it, what is the kind of common acceptable, certainly by state authorities, not clearly not by tobacco companies, in terms of restriction on advertising or ban on advertising? What's the extent of it from our team or from PAHO, if PAHO wants to chime in on this?
So I think we had shared some time ago where we had done an comparative analysis. So jurisdictions in the Commonwealth, we had done that matrix in terms of where they had the provision of a ban, which is the recommendation.
So hold on, is it fair to say that the Commonwealth has as a more standard practice as opposed to a ban, and a ban meaning no advertising at all, no advertising and promotion? Is that what we're saying based on the matrix?
Yeah, so we had looked at the countries, we had looked at Antigua, where we looked at in the Caribbean, and also some other Commonwealth countries. So Gambia has a comprehensive ban. Guyana imposes a comprehensive ban. In Bermuda, they prohibit many forms of taps. Point of sale is limited.
Canada has comprehensive ban as well.
The restriction. They have restrictions in Canada.
Trinidad, I think.
We had looked at Trinidad. Which prohibits most forms of tobacco advertising and promotion with the exceptions for information advertisement or brand preferences. South Africa, nearly all forms of tobacco advertising and promotion are prohibited. Kenya virtually prohibits all forms of tobacco advertising and promotion of tobacco products. Uganda has a comprehensive ban.
Okay, all right, I understand. So,
Chair, if I may, I just shared.
One second there, Senator, I see Pavo have their hand up, and then I'll come in after you. Actually, you go ahead, and then Pavo will come in. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the consideration. Just to say that I shared something in the chat group just now in terms of the state of tobacco prevention across WHO countries, and that is a good synopsis to see what the status is with respect to the global effort on tobacco control policies. For persons who may want to reflect on it, to see generally where Jamaica may stand and what we hope to do. If you want me to go into it in detail, but I'm mindful of the time and other persons' comments.
Leave it on the screen, and I'll let us hear what Pavo was to say.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Snipe.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll be very succinct. Is that the comprehensive ban is something that actually this has been recognized by all parties of the convention. So Jamaica has already signed on to this intent for a comprehensive ban. And the document that we shared does not focus on one group of countries, but provides examples around the world of these efforts. And I think that there's a consistent approach and effort amongst all signatories to the Framework Convention to move forward on this comprehensive ban. So I think that to complement Ms. Birch's point, there's been a lot of success in this area and advance amongst Commonwealth countries, but extensively around the world. Thank you.
Attorney SG.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to, following on that intervention from Pavo, I'd like to just make a legal clarification, which is that Jamaica has ratified the convention. It does not mean that we have said that we can undertake everything in Article 13. And in any case, Article 13 has a provision that speaks about your constitutional issues. And if you have a constitutional issue, you may not be able to do the comprehensive ban. However, you should do the ban that is where you have a lot of restrictions. And I heard even Ms. Birch talking about a number of countries that have a lot of restrictions, but not the complete comprehensive ban. So I think that is where the discussion must go. And it's not that Jamaica will be breaching its obligations if we go under Article 13.4. It's not a breach of our obligations under the convention, because the convention does recognize that we may not be able to do comprehensive ban, which is why Ms. Birch would have found some of those countries not doing the comprehensive ban. And just to also say, you have to be very careful when you do these comparisons, because some of those countries, even within our own region, do not have the same constitutional test we do. I have not been able to go through the correspondence that was sent in the link, but I can say to you, I made it very clear at the last meeting, the issue was not about, the issue we were raising from the Attorney General's chambers was very specific. It was only in relation to the minimal impairment. I agree that as it relates to other aspects of the test, we have good responses. The issue is in relation to the minimum impairment, especially in light of Article 13.4. And how do we explain that we cannot use Article 13.4? And the response to that is not also just in relation to data. And just to also make another comment, since I have the floor, Chair, that the report, I see something on page 17, some comments that I know I made, but yet I see speaks about, and it's in blue, a member of your committee. If these are really the comments I made, then I'm not a member of the committee. So this would need to be adjusted in the report. Thank you.
Just come in. Thank you, Attorney. Mrs. Aldred. In our response, what we have sought to do is to demonstrate where we are of the view that we would be able to satisfy that aspect of the test, because the evidence is there as to the effectiveness of restrictions. And for us, what we have in section 24 would be what is required to address the problem created by tobacco advertising, which is directly linked to consumption of tobacco products. So I'm hoping that in reviewing that the justification would be seen in terms of meeting that aspect of the test.
Chair, what I think the committee really should be looking at, though, as much as I hear that, and remember, and I understand everybody can come with their views, but I'm looking at it from a legal perspective where I have been involved in a number of matters like this, dealing with the Constitution. So, and there are not many other persons online now that have the experience that I have. I am acting as legal advisor to the government of Jamaica, and in relation to the Constitution, again, it's this office, the Attorney General, who has to sign the interim report to the Governor General, indicating that we think that all the provisions are consistent with the Constitution. What I have not seen is that this committee has not gone through the restrictions that are in Article 13.4. I think it would be good for the committee as a whole to go through those restrictions and see if it could meet the objectives without doing the comprehensive ban. And I think that is what I have not seen so far. Thank you.
Okay, and your point is noted, AG, and your role, but we do have other attorneys on the committee also, and I believe that they would have sufficiently examined the issues, even though they don't have the wealth of experience that you have. So I think the important issue is for a discussion, not necessarily for a dictate, to determine what is the best approach forward. So I do, as chair, believe that there's ample right for certainly the ministry with its own legal counsel to present a position based on its expert knowledge of the sector and indeed the health area, the area of health, not just in Jamaica, but globally. I believe that they have more expertise in that area than perhaps anybody else on the committee, because that's what they do every day, just as you do at the office of the AG. So I think that we have to have a conversation around the issue. What I want to try and understand, and I take the point about looking at the areas that you have asked to be examined to see if there's any mischief or injury to what would constitute a constitutional position, as opposed to, and therefore made some injury to the Constitution in taking the position. But I also agree with you on just kind of zeroing in on the specifics of what constitutes a comprehensive ban, as opposed to what constitutes a partial ban. And partial could mean many things. So maybe the solution to this is to be more specific and to determine, okay, this is what is being envisioned as it relates to a comprehensive ban, and this is what is envisioned in terms of a partial ban. And a partial ban, one second, Senator Lamore. A partial ban could mean several things. It means what is allowed and what is not allowed. And we could put a lot of things that are not allowed and very few things that are allowed. And maybe that's where we need to go in terms of actually listing what is allowed and what is not allowed, And that may actually give a clearer picture as to how we proceed, as opposed to defining what is a comprehensive ban. For example, I mean, I go into the gas station convenience store where tobacco is a big product, big, you know, there's a little point of purchase, little thing under the behind the cashier where the tobacco brands are displayed. I mean, it's a form of advertising. Is it that a comprehensive ban would mean that you can't have any of those? Does it mean that on the package or the casing of a tobacco product, you can't have the brand and the word tobacco on it? What does it mean? I mean, maybe we need to get that specific to determine exactly how we proceed. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Ilya and Mr. Edwards, if that is the way we need to go. Dr. Longmore, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As we seek to wrap up soon, as I had
specific to this or
very specific to this, Chair, because I'm connecting it to my
no, we wrap
original.
up at 12 or 12:30. Is it 12 or 12:30?
12:30.
I'm not sure. We started at 10:30.
I don't think I'm abusing the time. Normally it's about 12:30 we wrap up. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. So I had initially, when we started this discussion on clause 24, brought it to the focus of the constitutionality, which is what we're here contemplating. And as the SG indicated, that the main concern in her mind is the minimal impairment test. In that review, as you just indicated, for perhaps us getting a fulsome awareness as to what we hope to propose as an absolute ban versus partial or varying degrees of partial bans. In that requirement for minimal impairment test, let us also perhaps review what the pursuit of the statutory objective is. What is it that we are hoping, in addition to recognizing what a complete versus partial ban might be? Perhaps we also need to clearly delineate what our statutory objective is as the state. And in my mind, especially with the evidence that was previously given by the NCDA, there is clearly an obligation for the innocent and the vulnerable to be especially protected from something as addictive and lifetime consequences, not just in terms of said addiction, but also for chronic lifestyle illnesses, which pose a burden oftentimes to said state. So I would want us to reflect on that as we contemplate this finally. Thank you, Chair.
So I think that's a good intervention. My view on it, having worked and practiced marketing related activities over many years and taught it, is that the purpose of branding varies. I mean, there is information. So if you are so inclined and you want to purchase, at least you need to recognize what you're purchasing. But there's also the persuasive component. So it's about reach and impact, to use marketing terms. And you know, if a white unbranded product behind the cash register in a convenience store can be recognized as a tobacco and a particular brand of tobacco, because it's still a legal product, without messaging that promotes the whatever qualities that it claims to have, which then becomes a more persuasive type of intervention.
You still have that flat parent.
Member Guy, turn off your mic there for us, please. Thank you. The issue becomes, how do you position information as opposed to attempts at persuasion? And that's why I say maybe we need to get into, because information is necessary. And in fairness, that may be where the breach would be constituted, according to the AG, my interpretation, not hers, where people have a right, if they so desire, and would want to recognize what they're buying, at least in the worst case scenario, the brand, whether it's brand X or brand Y. But you really want to discourage as much as possible someone citing a brand and any related color or copy that would ease trial and sustain continued choice. And that's a very, very kind of nuanced technical position that would have to be subjected, I suspect, to some sort of specificity in terms of whether it's a legislation or the code, I don't know. So maybe the lawyer, that's where I'd have to depend on the lawyers, but I would certainly advocate as minister and as chairman of the committee that we ban anything to do with persuading, but may have to find a way, because it would be necessary, otherwise it would be confusion, to ensure identification, right? And there are two very, very different objectives. And the question is how you achieve both objectives. And that by extension would mean a partial ban to some extent, because information is, it would have to be there. I see Member Golden up and then Mr. Edwards. I suspect Senator Longmore made her point. You can take it on your hand, Senator Longmore.
Chair, I just wanted to know, and I don't recall it, but was it ever put before the committee the impact of any data on the impact of the advertising, the deterrent pictures that are required on tobacco packaging? Did we ever see any data on how those pictures, since being implemented in 2013-14, how those pictures impacted sales and purchase? And that was my first question. And my second question is just, I heard what the SG said, and I also appreciate your comments, Chair. But I think too, we must be mindful of the process for this bill to actually be tabled in the Parliament with these amendments, that we do really have to come to some position where we appreciate the minimal impairment standard, notwithstanding what health policies are across the board. That's going to be a significant issue for debate in the Parliament. So I think we really do have to have a strong argument.
I agree with you, and I do believe in the capacity of the Parliament and the legislators and lawmakers to discern those distinctions and to argue it. And I keep saying that we have to at some point allow the various levels of debate and examination and interrogation to ultimately decide on a path. And we're not discarding the advice of the HG by any stretch, but I do believe too that we have a right to argue with those considerations. And I think we also appreciate those considerations, which is why I made the point I made, the final point I had made, that maybe we need to come back with some specifics, but guided by what I've just said, information as opposed to persuasion. I don't know if anybody has any other advice on that. We're coming close to the end of the normal allotted time. And maybe that would be the homework for us to go and gather and then come back with some of those specifics. Anybody wants to comment further? By then we'd have read also the document that was circulated.
Chair, on the issue of the data, you mean?
The data, I don't know that there's any data that did any focus groups or surveys on those pictures on the box. I don't have any NCDA.
Probably have to check with NCDA.
NCDA, did you do anything around that? What they presented was information on on the impact of advertising on the global study that was quoted on, but not the pictures. NCDA, you have any information on that?
Good afternoon. This is Colette Curley. Mrs. Atkins had to step away for another meeting, so I apologize for that. Not at this moment. It could be something that we could consider for rapid assessment survey, but no information on that as far as we're concerned.
Why is it relevant though? Why is it important, Senator Golding? What's your thoughts on?
Because it was one of the initiatives that was legislatively implemented to deter the purchase of tobacco products. And I would want to know, as we look at complete bans on advertising and so on, whether this initiative that had been implemented, and it's been in place now for at least 10 years, whether it had an impact.
I'm sure if you look at global, well, it certainly had an impact on me, I can tell you personally. When I saw John Hearn on the picture of his picture on one of the boxes, I'm sure well, some of us, the older ones on the committee, like myself and member Guy, recall John, who was an avid smoker and who passed from lung cancer, and may have given permission, I suspect he would have before he died, for his picture to be used on the tobacco box. And a quote from him to say if he knew then what he knows now, having been a victim of smoking, then he would have done away with it. And he was a very avid smoker. When I saw it, having known him, I knew him. I used to be a lecturer at university. It did reinforce the point to me. I don't know if people who he did not know, it would have had the same impact. But that's just anecdotal. That's my personal experience, right? I don't know if there are any studies. Maybe we could survey the landscape globally and see. Maybe Powell could help us with that, and see if that is the case. But more importantly, though, I really think that and this is my opinion, as we're all entitled to, we would breach a substantial national and international code, if you will, around the tobacco debate if we allowed for any form of persuasive messaging around smoking. But I do take the point that from an informational standpoint, there is an argument that people must know what they're buying, right? The question is, how do they know what they're buying without being a persuasive incentive to an unsuspecting person, a youth, or anybody else for that matter? And that's really where I think the distinction has to be drawn. And it's much a legal argument as it is a creative argument. So the legal minds have to weigh in on it, but I think the creative minds, because marketing is really about manipulation of perception and thought to influence decision in whatever direction.
You know what was where my mind was going really? I mean, I was thinking about marijuana, and I'm thinking about the days before the marijuana legislation to decriminalize it came in. We had many youth smoking marijuana in Jamaica, but it wasn't something that was advertised. It wasn't something that sat on supermarket shelves or gas station shelves. And yet we did, you know, I think we had studies that indicated we had a problem. So I know what the philosophy is, I know what the policy is. I just sometimes wonder what the connection is between the actual data and some of the things that sound logical and sound sensible and, you know, and deter things that are negative. But I have an interest in that data.
Well, in closing, because we have a minute to go, I can say without any doubt, as a marketing practitioner, that marketing has significant impact on how people think and behave if it is done effectively. So it can discourage or it can encourage. And so the argument about the personal selling, and cultural norms or cultural influences around marijuana, whether it's religious or otherwise, is one argument that could explain why people do it even without any ads on TV, but it wouldn't justify the fact that ads therefore become could therefore be
Persuasive.
not exactly, right? So it's kind of two different issues. We have to be
Yeah, no,
careful
I'm
with.
not suggesting there's a justification. I just love to see the play of that data.
All right, well, we can search on that. So can I summarize then and thank all for being here today by saying that we will again have to go back to the drawing board. In this instance, it's to clarify, as recommended by the SG, the first point around not restricting someone, but more importantly, sharing the data and making that link to some sort of offense. With PAHO saying that they will also seek to get some additional information. And then the second point would be how we define partial ban and full ban, and if we can be guided in this respect by the principle of persuasion versus information, and see what that could look like possibly. Maybe we could come to a decision there and not offend the Constitution if that's a concern by the AG, and get some decisions going. All right, so if we're all agreed on that as a summary point, then I'll go back to the agenda. If there's any other business, any other business would be that we really should try and have a meeting as soon as possible. I don't need to indicate, and I'm not telling you about the school, but the political cycle comes to an end by September 12th. And that's not too long from now. And it could be before, who knows? Not for us to decide. And so if we could get a week, maximum 2, I don't know.
Seems you know, Chairman.
Sorry?
Seems you know.
No, I don't. Absolutely not.
First, leave this alone, man. Leave this alone.
Categorically, I don't. But I mean, the political cycle ends in 5 years.
But Chair, you see, who tell me to leave it alone? Obviously, he knows.
Right. Of the unofficial conversation with him. But I'd love to see a meeting. I really would love to see us close this report before the end of the political cycle. It would be unfortunate if we don't. So, Madam Parliamentary Secretary Recorder, what's your, well, first of all, Katie and Amy said, how much time would you need to, you need a week?
Remember next week, coming people.
So what, the next week after that? All right, so we'll coordinate to see if we can do, not next week, but the following week. I really hope we can all facilitate that and hope that that would be possible. So
noted, Chairman.
And Chair.
Okay.
Chair.
Yes.
Could we
yes,
try meet on a Tuesday? You know?
Okay. Okay, that's fine. All right. So if we're agreed on that general direction, then I would like to move then for an adjournment. Moved by.
So moved, Chair.
By. Okay, member Guy, seconded by.
Second, Chair.
Member Gail. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care, everyone. Have a good day.
Recording stop.
Voices, 5 weeks, 1 mission. Join us for the 2025 season of Jamaica's most popular gospel music show on television. beginning Sunday, July 6th and continuing every Sunday until our grand finale on Sunday, August 3 inside the Independence Village. Join us as we go in search of Jamaica's next gospel star, powered by Sagicor, building trust one generation at a time, and our many other partners.
Join the conversation focusing on Jamaica's development. Tune in to the post-cabinet press briefings, Wednesdays live at 9 a.m. with a rebroadcast at 9 p.m. right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.
One, two, three, two more. 1, 2. Adults to 30 minutes activity daily. Love your body, treat your body right. Vegetables, make sure you eat plenty. Children do 60 minutes activity daily. Drink some water when you feel thirsty. Cut down dessert and have a smoothie. Jamaicans, love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. One more time now. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Listen up. Make sure you know your health status. Go a doctor and get a regular checkup. Chronic disease can slowly creep up. We can lower the risk and live up if we just eat right and get moving. Jumping, running, dancing or skipping. Change the children, them lazy habit. Make them play out the door and put down the tablet. Jamaicans, love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Jamaica, get moving. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. After 2, make me hear you say I love me. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. After 2, make me hear you say I love me. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Jamaicans, love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. One more time now. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Jamaica, get moving. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. One more time now. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Just eat right. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Listen up. Love your body, treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right.
Remember, gambling is just a game. Choose to gamble responsibly. Set a budget, avoid chasing losses, and stop gambling when you reach your money limit. For gambling help, call RISE 888-991-4146. A message from the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission.
Silk threads are usually used for weaving. But in the hands of expert embroiderers, they can also become wonderful accessories. Johanne de Boyer is an accessory designer from Belgium. For her, accessories represent a journey of craftsmanship without borders. Johanne thinks her work as putting the icing on a cake. For her, the main challenge is making accessories that are creative but still blend in perfectly with clothes. A small stone, a ping pong ball, or even leftover materials can all become ingenious accessories. Johanne's passion is turning these seemingly plain objects into small miracles.
Si on compare avec les vêtements de marque, pour les accessoires, on peut utiliser plus de matériaux. Ceci donne donc plus d'espace de création pour le designer. Ce qui est important pour moi, c'est qu'il y a un lien très direct avec l'histoire, la culture et la tradition. Moi, j'ai l'habitude, dans mes créations, d'utiliser énormément d'éléments de la culture.
Johanne is working on pieces for the new season. They were inspired by a place deep in the mountains, somewhere that is both mysterious and dreamlike. Deep in the mountains in Guizhou province, garment making is a very ceremonial affair. These embroiderers are singing guge, or ancient songs. These songs are a record of the origins of the Miao ethnic group's civilization, history, and lives. In Guizhou, the women's favorite fabric has a unique luster. The technique used to make it is as old as the guge and is known only to them. These leaves are boiled until oil is secreted. The oil is then evenly applied to the fabrics, and the leaves are lit. The smoke is full of grease that soaks the fabrics together with the oil, causing a luster to appear. The embroiderers say that smoking them is not enough. The fabrics must be beaten repeatedly to make them fully blended with the pigment and grease.
Ce tissu naturel est irradiant, lumineux. Il est très moderne, très tendance. Ce que l'on trouve aujourd'hui dans les magasins, comme chaussures ou vêtements, est principalement fait avec des produits chimiques pour obtenir l'effet vernissé. Mais au Guizhou, on trouve encore des produits qui sont très naturels ou liés à la nature et qui permettent donc de créer des accessoires qui soient à la fois subtils, à la fois modernes, mais aussi nature.
The threads also need to be dyed. The plants and minerals from the mountains are the best dye stuff.
Ajouter des éléments naturels, porter l'accent sur la nature est une tendance internationale. C'est pourquoi je viens au Guizhou pour trouver mon inspiration, faire mon repérage, car ici, les gens ont encore ce savoir-faire d'intégrer les éléments naturels, des produits naturels, pour réaliser leurs propres vêtements et accessoires.
Jahan finds that women in Guizhou are particularly good at creating beauty. The colorful patterns on their garments are typical examples of this. They have turned plain and simple garments with a broad front opening into gorgeous and dazzling pieces. When it comes to accessories, Jahan considers all of them her teachers. It's said that there are stories behind the embroidered patterns. To find out more about them, Jahan enlists the help of Wu Xiaohua, who grew up in Tongshan village and is the first female PhD here.
这件衣服他那个所属的人叫是我们寨子最长寿的一个老人，他今年已经104岁了。然后他这件衣服至少得要有60年以上了。这件衣服对于苗族人来说是最重要的。老人过世的时候，他必须穿上这件衣服，然后我们的祖先才能够认识他。说白了，其实这个符号。 就是苗族人，特别是我们这一支苗族人，就是互相之间认同的一个符号。
Dans les accessoires contemporains, les symboles ont une place très importante. Beaucoup de gens aiment affirmer leur personnalité en s'associant à des symboles anciens. Pour la recherche de cette culture très ancienne, je voulais moi-même la redécouvrir et aller faire mon repérage au Guizhou. Car un des grands charmes du Guizhou, c'est qu'il y a encore énormément de graphismes archaïques et même avec des références à cette culture millénaire. Donc pour moi, une très belle source d'inspiration pour cette nouvelle collection.
Embroidering abstract patterns is not easy. Most of the embroiderers in Qiandongnan use the counted thread technique. To learn its precise steps, Jahan must visit another teacher. The Miao who live in Xiaohe village are called Hebian Miao, which means the Miao who live by the river. Long Lu Ying was born and raised here. She has organized a workshop together with other embroiderers.
你看这个人在还有个人嘛，千山万水，辛辛苦苦来到这个地方。那中间呢？哎，这个就是叫我创新的新的产品，叫幸福花。哦，也是一种花。哎，叫幸福花。
As the embroiderers stitch directly on the cloth, they count out the stitches and calculate the distance between each group of threads precisely, so that they can be arranged in the proper order. This technique is called counted thread embroidery. These abstract patterns were embroidered using this technique. When Jahan tries her hand at it, she realizes how hard it really is. The embroiderer's hands are as accurate as machines, but without the machine's rigidness. The patterns they embroider are both well-structured and dynamic. The towns in Guizhou remind Jahan of Verviers, her hometown in Belgium, which is also natural and unspoiled. At the end of the 18th century, as the Industrial Revolution was beginning, Jahan's ancestors set up a spinning mill there. The factory flourished with the emergence of industry, but declined with the wars of the 20th century. Today, the Industrial Revolution is already part of history, and fashion now favors the simple and rustic. Many of the patterns on Miao embroidery garments date back to the matrilineal